Look, let's be honest. For about 2 weeks in June 2025, the world felt like it was holding its breath. Every news channel, every social media feed, every conversation was dominated by one thing: the terrifying escalation between Iran and Israel. We saw headlines about so-called bunker buster bombs hitting Iranian nuclear sites at Fordo and Natanz. We watched grainy footage of ballistic missiles targeting Tel Aviv and a US airbase in Qatar. It was dramatic, it was scary, and honestly, it was all anyone could talk about. And frankly, with former President Trump announcing a complete and total ceasefire out of nowhere, it was also deeply confusing. It was the kind of global drama that demands your full attention, a geopolitical blockbuster that made everything else feel small and unimportant. But while we were all glued to our screens, watching the Middle East teeter on the brink, something else was happening. It wasn't loud, it wasn't explosive, it didn't come with breaking news alerts or breathless commentary. Instead, it happened quietly, in the sterile language of bureaucratic memos and technical updates. In both the European Union and the United States, powerful institutions pushed through fundamental changes to the very architecture of our financial lives. These shifts, wrapped in dull terms like interoperability and fraud detection, were designed to be boring. They were designed to fly under the radar. And thanks to a world distracted by war, they succeeded perfectly. You might be thinking, okay, so what? Some financial regulations changed. How does that compare to actual missiles? And that's a fair question. The problem is, while missiles are a very visible threat, the slow, methodical restructuring of our financial systems can be just as dangerous to our freedom, just in a different way. It's the difference between a sudden explosion and a slow-leaking poison. One gets all the headlines, but the other can do just as much damage over time. These quiet changes, implemented while our backs were turned, have set the stage for a future where our money, our data, and our choices are less our own than ever before. And that's the real trick, isn't it? When everyone is looking one way, it's the perfect time to do something they wouldn't like if they were paying attention. It's the oldest magic trick in the book, misdirection. While the world watched the skies over Tehran and Tel Aviv, a handful of powerful people in Brussels and Washington were busy redesigning the plumbing of our daily lives. They knew we were too preoccupied with the immediate danger to notice the long-term one being built right under our noses. So let's turn our attention away from the smoke and rubble for a moment and look at what was happening in the quiet halls of power. Over in Europe, while the diplomatic world was in a frenzy, the EU quietly rolled out a pilot program for something called the IDACE 2.0 Corporate Digital Identity Wallet. I know, it sounds like something that would put you to sleep faster than a C-SPAN marathon, but stick with me because this is important. Think of it as a universal digital passport, but for giant corporations. Big players like Deutsche Bank and Siemens are the first in line to use it. The official purpose is to make it easier for them to do business across borders, handle paperwork, and comply with regulations. It streamlines everything, making international business smoother for the corporate titans. So how does it actually work? Imagine a huge company like Siemens wants to sign a multi-billion euro contract with a partner in another country. Instead of mountains of paperwork, lawyers, and verification processes that take weeks, they can just use this digital wallet. It instantly proves who they are, verifies their credentials, and authorizes massive transactions. It's efficient, it's fast, and for the corporations involved, it saves a ton of money. This system is also being designed to perfectly integrate with a future digital euro, a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. That's a key detail we'll come back to. It's a digital key for the biggest players in the economic game. On the surface, this might sound like a good thing. Efficiency is good, right? Making business easier seems positive. But the problem lies in who this system is built for and who it leaves behind. This isn't a tool for the local bakery or the independent artist selling their work online. The technology, the compliance costs, and the very structure of the system are designed for the scale of multinational corporations. It gives them a state-sponsored technological advantage, an express lane on the economic highway, while everyone else is stuck in traffic. It's like giving a professional sports team a secret playbook designed by the league itself. This wallet is more than just a convenience for a few big companies. It represents a fundamental shift in how the economy is structured. It creates a two-tiered system, one for the corporate giants who can afford to play in this new digital sandbox, and one for everyone else. This system is being shaped not by public debate or small business input, but by the very corporations that stand to benefit the most. They are helping to write the rules of a game they are guaranteed to win, and because it was rolled out during a global crisis, almost no one had the chance to ask if this is a game we even want to play. Okay, you might be thinking, I'm not Deutsche Bank, I just want to buy a coffee. How does some fancy corporate wallet in Brussels affect me? That's the critical question. The answer is, slowly then all at once. Let's start with your favorite local coffee shop. To keep up, that shop might eventually be pressured to accept payments through this new digital system. But to do that, they'll need to invest in new technology and pay new fees that are easily absorbed by a megacorporation, but can be crippling for a small business owner. The big coffee chain down the street, however, will be fully integrated from day one. This creates an uneven playing field. Suddenly, your local spot might be forced to raise its prices to cover these new costs. Your €3 latte could become $3.50, then $4. Or worse, they might not be able to afford the new system at all, making them seem inconvenient or outdated compared to the big chains. You might find yourself going to the corporate giant more often, not because you like their coffee better, but because it's just easier or cheaper. The system, by its very design, pushes you towards the bigger players, slowly starving the small businesses that give our communities character. Your choices become narrower, not because of quality, but because of technology. Now let's take this a step further. Remember that this digital ID system is designed to link up with a future digital euro. If cash becomes less common, and systems like this are designed to make it so, every single transaction you make becomes part of a permanent, traceable digital record. When you buy that coffee, the purchase isn't just between you and the shop anymore. It's a data point, logged in a centralized system, linked directly to your digital identity. Who you are, where you are, and what you're buying are all connected in a neat little package. The anonymity of cash is gone. And here's where it gets truly concerning. Once all transactions are digital and tied to your identity, it becomes possible to control them. Imagine a world where your digital wallet could be temporarily frozen because you were late paying a parking ticket or a tax bill. Your ability to buy that coffee or your groceries or pay your rent could be switched off with the click of a button by an automated system. This isn't some far-fetched dystopian fantasy. It's the logical endpoint of a system that centralizes all financial activity and links it directly to identity. The convenience of a tap-to-pay world hides a very real loss of personal freedom and control. The convenience offered by these new digital systems comes at a steep and often invisible price: your privacy. With a system like the EU's digital wallet, every financial move you make could be logged and linked to your universal digital ID. Think about your online shopping habits, the subscriptions you pay for, the political party you donate to, or the medical specialist you visit. Right now, that information is somewhat scattered. You might use a credit card for one thing, PayPal for another, and cash for something else. This separation provides a degree of practical privacy. It's hard for any single entity to see the complete picture of your life. But a centralized digital ID changes that. It consolidates everything. Suddenly, your entire financial life, from the mundane purchase of toilet paper to the sensitive payment for a therapy session, is collected in one place. This creates an incredibly detailed profile of your behavior, your beliefs, and your vulnerabilities. This data is immensely valuable. Corporations could use it to target you with eerily specific advertising. Insurance companies could use it to adjust your premiums based on your spending habits, and governments could use it to monitor their citizens on a scale never before imaginable. Every swipe, tap, or click adds another brushstroke to a portrait of you that you don't own and can't control. This data collection isn't just about advertising, it's about judgment. Imagine applying for a mortgage in 10 years. The bank could pull up your entire financial history, not just your credit score. They might see that you frequently gambled online, or donated to a controversial cause, or spent too much on takeout food. An automated algorithm, not a person, could then flag you as high risk and deny your loan with no clear explanation or appeals process. Your past spending, completely legal and harmless at the time, could be used to lock you out of future opportunities. You become a prisoner of your own data history. The promise is that this data will be secure and used responsibly. But we've heard that promise before, and we've seen it broken time and time again. Data breaches are now a routine part of life. A centralized database of every citizen's financial and personal information would be the ultimate target for hackers. More than that, the potential for misuse by those in power is enormous. What happens when a government decides that certain political views are problematic? With a centralized digital ID, they could easily identify and track everyone who has ever donated to an opposing party or activist group. The system built for convenience becomes a tool of control. Now let's hop across the Atlantic to the United States, where, a similar story was unfolding in the shadows of the same global conflict. While we were all debating the merits of bunker busters, the US Federal Reserve quietly pushed through a major upgrade to its FedNow instant payment system. FedNow itself isn't new, but this upgrade was a real game changer. The Fed gave the green light for powerful tech companies like Palantir, a name that should always make your civil liberties sense tingle, and financial giants like Visa to integrate artificial intelligence analytics directly into the payment stream. The official reason for this, as always, is a noble one: to detect and prevent fraud. And honestly, who doesn't want to prevent fraud? It's like being against puppies. But the mechanism for doing this involves allowing AI algorithms to scan and analyze every single transaction that flows through the system in real time. This isn't just about checking if a transaction is coming from a weird location. It's about predictive analysis. The AI learns your patterns, what you buy, when you buy it, and where you buy it from, to build a profile of your normal financial behavior. Any deviation from that norm can be automatically flagged as suspicious. So, what does this mean in practice? It means that every time you use this system to pay for something, an algorithm is watching and judging. Let's say you suddenly decide to buy a large amount of cryptocurrency, or maybe you make a one-time donation to an independent journalist in another country, or you simply buy gas in a different state while on a road trip. These actions could be flagged by the AI as anomalous. The system doesn't know you're on vacation, it just knows this isn't your usual Tuesday. Your transaction could be blocked, or your account could be temporarily frozen, all by a machine with no one to appeal to. This upgrade is also a critical piece of groundwork for a potential US digital dollar, or CBDC. By building the AI surveillance infrastructure first, the transition to a fully digital government-backed currency becomes much smoother. The system of monitoring and control is already in place. It's like building the prison before you've officially announced the new laws. This quiet, technical upgrade to FedNow wasn't just a minor tweak. It was a foundational step toward a financial system where every transaction is subject to automated scrutiny and potential intervention, all done with little to no public debate. Let's get very specific about what an AI-powered FedNow means for you, an ordinary person. Imagine you're trying to pay your rent at the end of the month, but last week you helped a friend out by sending them a few $100s for an emergency car repair. The AI, seeing a larger than usual outflow from your account, flags your behavior as financially risky. So when you try to pay your rent, the transaction is declined. There's no person you can call to explain the situation. You're just stuck, locked out of your own money by a secret algorithm that has judged you financially irresponsible based on a single act of kindness. This constant financial surveillance turns every purchase into a potential red flag. Think about the chilling effect this has on your behavior. Maybe you want to support a political cause that isn't mainstream. You might hesitate to donate, worried that your contribution will be flagged and put you on some kind of watch list. Maybe you want to buy a book on a controversial topic, Will that purchase be logged and used to build a profile about your beliefs? The system encourages conformity. It subtly pushes you to be predictable, to avoid any transaction that might be deemed unusual by an opaque algorithm. Your financial freedom shrinks, not by law, but by the cold, calculating logic of a machine. This also gives immense power to the handful of tech and banking companies that control these AI systems. Companies like Palantir and Visa get to see a fire hose of transaction data, giving them an unprecedented view into the economic life of the entire country. They can use this data to refine their products, crush competitors, and profit from insights that no one else has access to. Your personal financial data becomes the raw material that fuels their corporate dominance. They get richer and more powerful, while you get analyzed, categorized, and controlled. And because this is all done in the name of security, it's incredibly difficult to challenge. The most dangerous part is the lack of transparency. You will never see the code that runs these algorithms. You won't know what specific behaviors are considered risky. You won't be able to correct errors in your profile. If you are denied a service or have your account frozen, you may never get a clear reason why. It's a black box system that holds immense power over your life. The presumption of innocence is flipped on its head. In this new world, your financial transactions are considered potentially guilty until proven innocent by a machine you can't see and can't question. Both the EU's IDAS wallet and the USA's AI-enhanced FedNow share a common victim, the small business. These systems are not built for the little guy. They are built by and for the giants of industry. For a small business, a local restaurant, a hardware store, an online creator, the cost and complexity of integrating with these new financial ecosystems can be overwhelming. They require technological upgrades, compliance with complex new rules, and payment of fees that are designed for volume. It's a system that inherently favors scale, creating a massive barrier to entry for anyone who isn't already a market leader. Think about it from the perspective of a consumer. You have two options: a massive online retailer that offers seamless one-click payment through the new ultra-fast system, or a small Etsy seller who can only accept older payment methods. The convenience of the new system will naturally pull customers towards the larger corporation. The small seller is left behind, not because their product is worse, but because they can't afford to be part of the new financial club. This market consolidation is not a bug, it's a feature. It concentrates economic power in the hands of the few companies that can afford to dominate the new infrastructure. This data advantage is also a weapon. With AI analyzing millions of transactions, large companies like Visa and the banks they partner with can see market trends long before anyone else. They know what's selling, where it's selling, and who is buying it. They can use this information to launch their own competing products or services, undercutting small businesses with perfect market timing. A small business relies on its unique knowledge of its customers. But when a handful of corporations has a god's eye view of the entire economy, that local advantage disappears. It's like playing poker against someone who can see your cards. Ultimately, this leads to a less diverse and more expensive marketplace for everyone. When small businesses are pushed out, we are left with fewer choices. The unique products, the personal service, and the community benefits of local businesses are replaced by the homogeneous, one-size-fits-all offerings of a few dominant corporations. And with less competition, those corporations have no incentive to keep prices low or quality high. The system that was sold to us as a step towards a more efficient future ends up creating a less vibrant, less competitive, and more controlled economy for the average person. The timing of these financial shifts is perhaps the most cynical part of this whole story. Let's be very clear. These were not small routine updates. They were massive, foundational changes to the way money and identity will work in the 21st century. In a functioning democracy, changes of this magnitude should be subject to intense public debate, scrutiny from lawmakers, and widespread media coverage. People should have the right to understand how their relationship with their money is being fundamentally altered. But that debate never happened. It was completely and utterly drowned out. While the world's attention was obsessively focused on the Iran-Israel conflict, these changes were quietly pushed through. The headlines were filled with military strikes, intercepted missiles, and emergency diplomatic meetings. The public conversation was about the possibility of a wider war. In this environment of fear and distraction, a press release about a corporate digital wallet pilot program or an AI analytics integration for FedNow was guaranteed to be ignored. It's the perfect political magic trick. Create a massive distraction with one hand, while the other hand signs the future into law. This strategy is incredibly effective because it exploits our natural cognitive limits. We can only pay attention to so many things at once. When faced with an immediate, visceral threat like a war, our brains are wired to prioritize it above all else. Abstract, technical, long-term threats just can't compete for our attention. The architects of these systems knew this. They used the fog of war as cover to implement a new architecture of control, confident that by the time the smoke cleared and we looked around, it would already be too late. The new systems would be in place, a done deal. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is a simple observation of political strategy. Controversial policies are often passed late on a Friday afternoon or during a major sporting event for the same reason. But using a war as cover is a whole new level of audacity. It allowed a small group of unelected bureaucrats and corporate executives to make decisions that will affect the privacy and freedom of hundreds of millions of people, all without any meaningful public consent. They leveraged a global crisis to their advantage, ensuring that the systems that benefit them the most were implemented with the least amount of resistance. So, let's bring this all together. While we were rightly worried about war in the Middle East, two seemingly boring technological changes were put in place that could reshape our lives. In Europe, the eIDAS 2.0 corporate wallet created a privileged financial lane for giant corporations. In the United States, the FedNow system was given an AI brain to watch every transaction. These were not isolated events. They are two sides of the same coin. A global push towards a more centralized, more surveilled, and more controlled financial system. A system that benefits a small elite at the expense of everyone else. For the average person, the consequences are stark and clear. First, your costs will likely go up. As small businesses are squeezed out by the complexity and fees of these new systems, we will have fewer places to shop, leading to less competition and higher prices. Second, your privacy will be effectively eliminated. Every payment you make, from buying coffee to paying rent, will be logged, tracked, and analyzed, creating a permanent digital record of your life that can be used to judge you. The simple freedom of an anonymous cash transaction will become a relic of the past. Most importantly, your freedom will shrink. In a fully digital and centralized system, your ability to spend money can be controlled by outside forces. An algorithm could freeze your account for risky behavior. A government could block payments to causes it dislikes. Your very ability to participate in the economy could become conditional, dependent on your compliance with rules you had no say in creating. The convenience of a seamless digital world masks a dark reality. It's a world where someone else holds the off switch to your financial life. These quiet digital shifts, implemented under the cover of global conflict, are not just about technology, they are about power. They transfer power away from individuals and small businesses and concentrate it in the hands of big banks, big tech, and the governments they work with. We were distracted by the loud, explosive threat of war, and we missed the silent, creeping threat to our wallets and our liberty. The question now is, what do we do now that we see the leash they've quietly placed around our future? Because if we don't start pulling back, we might find it gets very tight very soon.